Welcome back to the beginner's course for consultants. Now, in the previous lesson, I explained to you how to convert a potential customers, a prospect, into a customer by presenting your consulting services and writing a proposal. Now, after this client accepts your proposal, which I hope will happen often in your career, then you actually have to move into this phase of signing an agreement. Now, the problem there is that this acceptance of your proposal is not equal actually to getting the job because this signing of an agreement is a very tedious process that sometimes takes a lot of time, and it also brings various risks if you don't handle this process correctly. So in today's lesson, I'll show you what does this standard ISO 20700, it's called Guidelines for Management Consulting Services. What does this standard suggest that each consulting agreement should have? So after watching this lesson, you'll have a clear idea not only how to deal with this legal risk within these agreements, but also how you will actually have a more satisfied client, because this kind of an agreement is a perfect way actually to set clear expectations on what needs to be delivered as part of this project. And when you have clear expectations, then there is a much higher chance that you will actually be able to fulfill exactly these expectations. Okay, once a client accepts your proposal, in some cases they will come up with their first draft of the agreement from their own template. But in most cases, clients, especially smaller companies, will expect from you to actually come with this draft of an agreement. But no matter which, let's say, source of this template of the agreement is, you should always take care that this agreement has the following elements from this ISO 20700 standard. And these elements are context, services and deliverables, approach and work plan, roles and responsibilities, acceptance criteria, and finally, terms and conditions. So let's go through each of these elements. Context is usually what the company needs to achieve given its circumstances. So for example, a company might need to get ISO 9001 certified because this is required by their customers, or a company might need to become compliant with the NIS2 regulation because it is classified as a critical infrastructure. Then for services and deliverables, you need to specify exactly what your services are. For example, you're doing some kind of an analysis, like a risk analysis, you're writing documentation, you're doing the training, so whatever you agree to do. And by the way, you can take a look at my lesson that speaks about packaging consulting services, and this is where you will see more examples on what you can actually offer to your clients. Now, it is equally important that you specify what is not included so that it's clear what the scope of the project is. So for example, if you're doing a security risk assessment, you can help a client identify the assets and then threats and vulnerabilities, but you cannot actually make decisions on the level of impact and likelihood. This is something that a client or perhaps asset owner needs to do. This is something that the consultant cannot do on behalf of the client because, again, the company needs to make crucial decisions. It's not something that an outsider, meaning a consultant, can do. Also, you should specify very clearly if project management is part of the scope or not. And by the way, it's much better if project management is not part of your service, because if you're a consultant, it's going to be very hard for you to actually catch all the people in the company to do whatever they have to do. Because again, you're external to the company, you don't know how the company works from the inside. It would be much better if a company has internal coordinator or project manager that will coordinate all of these activities within the project. And then under this approach and a work plan, you have to define, for example, if you're using some kind of a specific methodology. So if you're using this asset-based methodology for doing the risk assessment, then you have to specify so in order to avoid, the client afterwards saying that this is not what they expected. You should also specify the milestones in your project. And if you didn't already specify the outcomes, then you can specify the outcomes next to each milestone. And basically you should use the same milestones as in your proposal. And you also have to clearly define what are roles and responsibilities. So what is it exactly that the consultant does, but also you have to specify what is the responsibility of the client. So for example, for documents, you can say that the consultant writes the documents and adapts them according to the specific needs of the client, but that the client actually needs to review all of these documents and approve them and distribute them. You can also specify that it is a responsibility of the client to enable all the resources, to provide the project sponsor, to provide the project manager, and so on. And then you also have to define these acceptance criteria, meaning that you have to specify very clearly on what will constitute a good job or a bad job. Otherwise, how would the client know if what you did was of a high quality or not? For example, you should not set as an acceptance criteria that the company gets certified, because ultimately this is something that you as a consultant cannot control, because you do not know whether their employees will comply with all of these documents that you have written. This is something that you cannot influence enough. So something that you do actually influence is writing documents, taking the clients step by step through the whole process, train them, advise them, but you cannot tell their employees what to do. This is something that is the job of their management. So the acceptance criteria could be how quickly did you deliver all the deliverables, if they were actually within the deadlines that were specified, how quick was your response to any of their requests, if these documents that you have written were, let's say, accepted after a first or a second revision, or it needed, 24 revisions. So these are the things that you can actually specify as acceptance criteria. Okay, and then you have these terms and conditions. There you have to specify the pricing and payment. The pricing basically you have to take from your proposal, and you also have to specify these prices in a very transparent way so that it is clear how much do you charge for the services that are in the scope of the agreement, but also that you specify what is the pricing for the potentially extra services that they might need. Regarding payment, it's best if they can actually pay you in some kind of installments, probably best according to the milestones when you deliver certain deliverables, so that you don't wait too long for your money. And you also have to address security and privacy and intellectual property in this agreement. And actually there is a separate lesson in this course where I will explain these things. And ultimately, since these agreements are rather complex, it's better to either hire a lawyer to actually come up with some kind of a template that you can then reuse, or perhaps purchase some online template which can actually help you deal with it much more quickly. Okay, I hope this was helpful, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions about signing an agreement as a consultant with your client, and I'll try to answer as quick as I can. And here are a couple of materials that will help you learn more, and you'll find the links below this video. So first of all, there is this advanced course for consultants that I made for consultants with let's say 2 or more years of experience in this business, where I explain some more advanced techniques on how to deal with clients, how to close the deals, and so on. Second, there is this Secure and Simple podcast where I'm the host, and I interview various successful consultants, where you can learn how they'll actually make deals with their clients and what makes them successful, so that you can copy what they are doing. And finally, in the next couple of lessons of this beginner's course, I'll explain how you deliver the consulting projects after you sign an agreement. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel not to miss any of my new videos. And I make videos about cybersecurity compliance and governance every week. Thanks for watching.